Hey friends, Jasmine here, and you are watching The Grace Space. Today I am joined by one of my really great friends, Alexandria next.
Hey everyone!
And today we're going to be talking about finding hope in the unexpected. So Alexandria, we are going through a very unexpected time in our whole world,
Yes.
Just not only, here in California, but everywhere. And it's just, I think a lot of us don't know really what to make of it, what's going to come next, how long we're going to be in this place.
Right, exactly.
And just kind of how to move from here. And so today we're going to talk about that a little bit. So I specifically wanted to bring Alexandria on because I feel like you've been through a lot, and you've been through an unexpected situation, which was the passing of your father. That kind of set off a couple of different events as well in your life. That was just a lot of unexpected circumstances.
Yeah.
So I just wanted you to share a little bit about that whole situation.
Okay. So when I was in my freshman year of college, so that was 2006, my dad was acting different, just not as healthy, not as his normal self. And so I knew something was going on, but him being more traditional, old school, he just pushed through. He kept working. Finally, he went to the doctor, and he had pancreatic cancer. And so me and my brother didn't find out until a little bit later, but we knew something was going on because he was looking different and sick and stuff.
Yeah.
But he didn't want us to worry. So finally, my mom told us, my aunt, my cousin came over just for the weekend, and my dad went to visit his brother in Sacramento, our Northern California area. And so sat us down, told us what was going on, and I was just shocked. I knew something was going on, but I didn't think it would be that. And so he lasted pretty long, longer than they thought. I think they gave him a prognosis of 3 to 6 months, and he ended up passing away about 9 months later.
Wow.
But he still worked, probably until the last 1 or 2 months. And he would drive himself to his chemo appointments, and he was just really strong throughout the process. But I think in retrospect, he didn't want to accept this unexpected news,
the reality
essentially.
of it.
Right.
Yeah.
The reality of I have cancer, I don't have control. Pancreatic cancer is not the most curable. Most people die from it. And then to have, his 2 younger children, and then he also has an older son, my half brother, and my mom, and just, all these things going on. So I think it definitely is relatable to what's going on now, because this virus that has come out and has kind of ravaged the world was very unexpected. We heard about it, we knew something was going on, but we didn't know how serious it was.
Yeah.
And then it feels like within the first week or 2 of March, things started shifting a little bit, and then now all of a sudden we're in the 3rd week of March. People have lost their jobs, restaurants have shut down, businesses have shut down, and people are thinking, how am I going to live? How am I going to survive? And these unexpected events have been devastating, and that's how I felt, in that moment when my dad passed away. Is, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive? Who's going to provide? My mom worked, but my dad was the provider, and it was just this stopping point where I felt how do I move forward from this? How does my family move forward? And I really had to put my hope and my trust in God, and just take it day by day. A couple months, maybe 6 months after my dad passed away, my mom lost her job.
Wow.
So it was okay, this is
one
too
thing
much.
after the other.
Yeah, it was just one thing after another. That summer when I came back from college is when my dad passed away. So I was there with him the last month or 2. And then that summer I was just kind of laying low, but I did get a job. I think that helped me just to be working. Went back to school. My mom lost her job. I got in a car accident, I think maybe a couple months after I started going back to school. And I needed money for my deductible, and it was just like a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I was just like, okay, God, like, what are we going to do? But God provided. My mom's landlord was very flexible with her paying the rent. They understood the situation, what was going on, thank God. My mom got a new job shortly after, maybe like a month or two later. So in those circumstances, you know, God provided. Obviously, as a family, you know, we became much closer. I never had to drop out of school. I never had to worry about at least my school situation and how I was going to finish college. I graduated on time, and I mean, I worked hard. I worked like 3 jobs in college, but you know, God provided those jobs for me. That's how I see it. And so I could have saw it as, you know, this terrible situation that it's not fair, and why did this have to happen to me? And I did go through those moments.
Yeah.
But I had to look at it as, you know, God gave me my father for the time that he did, and I have so many great memories with my dad, and a lot of people didn't have that growing up. You know, some people didn't have a father who was at their games, coming to parent-teacher conferences. You know, my dad would always like help with play dates with me and my friends. We'd go to the park. So those are the memories I have, and I wish my dad was here, but I thank God that I had him for the time I had growing up. And really the values that my dad instilled in me, that has allowed me to be who I am today. And that's gonna, you know, live on. I'm gonna pass that on to my children, and they're gonna pass it on to their children.
That's a great perspective, though, because I feel like a lot of us are in this place right now where it's like we don't know what's gonna happen next, you know, and we have a choice to either believe that God's gonna come through and that everything's gonna work out in the end, or we can be very pessimistic about it and just see this as final. And I believe that this is not the end of our story. Even for a lot of businesses, as well as our own, as well as Gracemade, a lot of things were shaken up because of this event, you know, and
what
a lot of
changes have you guys had to make?
So, for example, a lot of you have been to some of our pop-up shops or our markets, and a lot of those were canceled, and that is something that draws in a lot of revenue for us, and we get to see a lot of you guys, and so that's a lot of those we won't be able to do until August. And so, you know, we have to kind of scramble and figure out, okay, what are we going to do to make up for that until that time? And so, you know, something that I've been saying to myself is none of this is a surprise to God. Like, he knew this was going to happen, and he also called me to start this business, and so I have to trust that he's going to give me the provision, you know, to continue to see it through and continue to do what I need to do. But again, you know, when I see these businesses that are losing their stores or having to, you know, to lay off all of their workers and stuff like that, you know, terrible. It just seems like a hopeless situation. But I feel like, you know, your story is very encouraging, because although it's not the same thing, it also could have been a hopeless situation with your mom losing her job. And so, you know, with all these things going on, you could have seen it as, you know, we could be out on the street, we can be homeless, all this stuff, but you were able to, like, you guys were able to recover. And even now, you know, I'll let you share, like, what God's doing in your life now, and how everything that was kind of lost was repaid, and you were able to regain it, and you've been able to make a life for yourself, even past that, where it seemed like everything was coming to an end because your provider, your dad, was no longer there. That's
so true. I do feel like things have kind of come full circle. And yeah, God has just, through that time, and even, you know, beyond that, God really changed my heart, and that shaped me and really put something inside of me that was like, you have to always think about your family, and how can you help your family, and how can you work together and come together to support one another. Because I know my family has done that for me, and I want to always be there to do that for my family. And that's hard because it requires sacrifice. Oh my gosh, family's so hard. And so, you know, seeing people come together now. I've seen so many people on Instagram donating money just to PayPal accounts or Venmo accounts, and handpicking families who need help. People submitting, their challenges. They need money for groceries, for diapers, for rent, and people donating money to meet those needs. And so that's more of like an extended family, but I think having that community and having that family support is so important and so helpful. So I want to be that for my family. I want to be that for my community. And so just volunteering at church, serving at church, and then also opening up myself to sacrifice my desire to maybe like live by myself or keep all my money to myself or all my resources. God is constantly pushing me to give. And at the end of the day, it gives me the greatest joy and peace knowing that I can help others. Thankfully, during this situation, I still have my job. I work for a school district, even though we're closed down. I still have my job. I'm still getting paid, which I am so grateful for. I don't take that for granted. I just bought a house 2 months ago in January 2020. I know, thank God. Jasmine helped me a lot with some of the projects. And I just think of so many people who bought a house or took on a new job or whatever it may be, and then now this has happened and totally changed the trajectory of that decision. So when I bought the house, I made the decision to buy a house big enough for my mom and my grandmother to live there, which, when I say sacrifice, I was living at home before, and I wanted to be by myself, live by myself, live my best life, have people over, have parties, have friends over, and just have my own space, my own time. But thinking about the sacrifice that my mom has made, and again, like wanting to help my family because my mom was renting, I just didn't feel right about buying my own place by myself. So I was like, okay, God, I think you're leading me to buy something big enough to where my mom and my grandmother can live there for a couple years. And then that will help my mom to be able to buy her own house. And so, again, I think that it was wisdom for me too, because it does help financially when you can, split resources amongst your family. And so I know, like, traditionally in America, the idea is that, you move out, you go to college, you live on your own and do your own thing. But I do feel like now we're seeing that a lot of people are moving back home for different reasons, and it can be a positive. And especially in these situations where now we're seeing, an economic downturn and all these terrible things. I think that's one of the hugest benefits to supporting one another and maybe living with family or having a different type of living situation, because then you can have more resources and have more support. So that's been a huge blessing to my family and also to me.
I think support is like a key word here. I love what you said about seeing people coming together, especially on Instagram and that kind of thing, and using the power of social media to help one another. And even with small businesses like myself, us coming together and collaborating and coming up with ideas to help one another. So I think that's a great idea, and I think that I love what you said about, doing what you need to do in this season, whether it means moving in with family or, with friends or getting roommates or whatever. All of that's okay. Like, we're all in the same place where we are all going to be set back at a certain point, to a certain point or certain extent. And so don't be ashamed or feel like if you need to ask for help or ask for support, because we're all in the same place and we're all in this together, and we all want to help each other out and find ways that we can come together and help each other to recover from this. So I love that.
And I did want to ask, I have seen some businesses kind of do things a little bit differently than their normal day-to-day. Kind of being creative, thinking outside the box. What ideas have you come up with, or like how have you used this unexpected situation to have some more creativity in your business, or think about some different ways to do things than what you were normally doing?
Yeah, for sure. So I really had to get scrappy because It's like, it just happened out of nowhere. Literally last week I was salsa dancing, and now
I know, that's so true. It's crazy. Like last week we were all just doing regular everyday things. And
like never expected to get to this point, right? And so I had to get a little scrappy, like, and be like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, how are we gonna save the business? How are we gonna keep going? And so just like racking my brain about that, and then also how to help other people, as we were talking about community support. And so I'm still kind of brainstorming things, but one thing I thought of doing, which you guys will see soon too, is doing little doing like a daily show where we do calls with different entrepreneurs, different businesses or brands that you guys love, and talking to them about their business and kind of where they're at right now, how this is kind of affecting them, and how people can purchase and support their businesses. Because I think small businesses get overlooked sometimes. You know, it's so quick to go to what you know, and so we want to kind of help each other out in that way. But also, I think one thing that I've had to learn through this is, like, you have to, like, give up trying to, like, do things perfectly. Because I'm always trying to make things look completely perfect. And, you know, now it's just, like, you have to do things from home. You know what I mean? You can't have a nice studio in this
studios are shut down.
You can't produce, like, top-of-the-line content right now. So it's, like, we just have to work with what we have, and everybody's on the same page where it's just like we're using all of our resources that we can find to make things work. So I think my biggest takeaway is just like make it work. Use what you have, use the resources you have around you.
So for me, like I shared throughout my life, I have seen that, you know, God has provided in the worst of situations, so I know he's going to provide in this situation. Have there been situations in your life that have been similar to this or different, to where you feel like God provided, or, you know, it was an unexpected situation, and, you know, how did you remain hopeful?
All the time. All the time.
Especially being a small business owner too.
And I think that's why this is not like as like scary for me, because I feel like when you step out on faith and you're trusting God with your day-to-day things, because that's what I have to do as a small business owner, especially, you know, not really taking a salary. It's like an everyday trusting process. So I'm like, God, really?
More faith.
Like, I thought I passed that test. So
because you're doing so good, so he's just gonna keep raising the bar for you.
Let's do another test for you. So there's been like months where I go out without where I've gone without pay or stuff like that.
And see, she never shares this. Like, her faith and just how she lives her life, like, I would never know that. That those situations have gone on.
2019 was the worst.
Really?
You would have never known. But there was like months where it was just like,
I didn't know that.
And so it was a thing where it was like, okay, God, you said you were going to provide my every need. And there was still provision. That's the thing. If you guys have read your Bible, in Numbers, it talks about the children in the wilderness, the Israelite children, and God rescues them from Egypt, which is like, you know, this horrible place where they're in bondage and slavery, right? He rescues them and he takes them to the wilderness, and he's going to take them to their promised land, right? So I always look at myself as the children, the child in the wilderness, because I feel like that's what God's doing. He's taking me to this place where it's like land flowing with milk and honey, this great place where he's going to really elevate everything that I've been working towards. That's what I really believe in my heart. And so anyways, in the story of the children in the wilderness, there's this throughout the story, God's only giving them their basic necessities. So he's only feeding them with like manna, which is like basically seems like pita bread, but just imagine eating pita bread every single day.
For all your meals.
Yes, but it's like enough to fill you up. So he gave them just enough, but nothing that was like extra. To just, I really think it was a test to see if they trusted him as well. But they started complaining. So they start complaining like, I'm tired of eating this dried bread, like whatever. And I kind of can relate to that, because it felt like that in that season where it was just like, like, you're giving me the bare necessities. So it was like that in that season where it just felt like, okay, you're giving me just enough money to like make it day by day. I just have just enough food to like, you know, all of that. And so I can completely relate to that. But I have that hope of like, at the end of that story, there is a promised land. So it's like,
Right.
when we continue to trust God, like we will see the fruit from that and see the provision from that. So that's kind of what I want to encourage you guys with today too, is that when we're in these unexpected times and we have unexpected circumstances and we don't really know what's going to happen next, to just continue to keep going. That's all we can do. You know, again, we're all in the same boat. And if we just keep going, I believe that we're going to see a harvest at the end of this, and keeping a positive perspective, limiting the news intakes. Don't watch that pandemic documentary on Netflix.
I watched that. I watched Pandemic, Outbreak, Contagion, all those. But it didn't trigger me.
Some of you guys might get triggered though.
Yeah, if you're triggered, don't watch it.
But you know, another thing that this whole situation has been teaching me also is that all of us are powerless. The only one that has any power is God. Nobody's able to save themselves. Celebrities are getting the coronavirus. Like, everyone.
Politicians.
Yes, everyone. So it's like, if you think that you can, you know, rule your own life and that you have all the answers, we clearly do not. Because we're all on lockdown.
Exactly.
Like, nobody can do anything.
We're not in control, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, because God's in control. And I think that's another big takeaway too, is that, you know, you don't have to have everything figured out. We're not in control. All we can do is our best with what we have. And trust that God will take care of the rest.
Yeah, and I think that's scary for a lot of people too.
Yeah, that's hard for me.
I think we're both control freaks.
We are.
We are both control freaks. Yeah. And so for people who like to have everything planned, I'm telling you guys, at the beginning of the year, I had my whole list planned of what was going to happen for Gracemade. This was going to be our best sales year yet. And it's like, oh, actually, let me have a seat. Yeah. Not in the trash, because I believe God will redeem it somehow. But I'm just going to have several seats because obviously I don't know anything. And so... you know, that happens. But again, I think that's to show us that we have no control. And so I really encourage you, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, if you don't really know God or believe that there is a higher power, to really start seeking that out, start asking questions, because obviously the way things are going is showing us that, you know, we have no control. And if we don't have control, then there better be someone who does.
Yes, Jesus does.
I'm so glad that you shared your story, because again, it's just to see how far you've come from that place. And I'm sure, like, even in the situation, the emotions were much more raw, and it just felt so serious in that point, you know, such a crucial situation where it just felt like everything was falling apart.
Yes, very hopeless, depressed, just why did this have to happen to me? And I was in like a little bit of a depression for a couple weeks. And so just to encourage anyone out there that feels those emotions, there is light at the end of the tunnel. It does get better. You know, take it day by day. And there's been other situations that have happened, you know. I think it taught me that just because I love and trust God doesn't mean my life's going to be perfect.
That's good.
Because life here is not perfect.
It's not.
Bad things happen, like what's going on right now. But God will always prevail, and there's always something on the other side. Yeah. And so no matter the situation, whatever you feel like there's no hope in, put your hope in God, because there will be like the redemption, like you said. He will redeem things. There will be provision. There will be encouragement, support. There will be joy and peace at some point. But like you said, go day by day. Keep going. Keep moving forward.
Yeah. And get around people who are encouraging. You know, don't surround yourself around, and I always talk about this, who you're surrounding yourself around. Don't surround yourself around pessimistic, negative people. Just keep encouraged, be around people who are positive and really looking to the brighter end of things. Yeah. So I always like to end off with some tips to make things practical.
Okay. I like tips.
So we're going to give tips. I'll give mine first so you can like start to think about your tip for everyone.
Okay.
So yeah. I didn't really think of a tip, to be honest, but I'm just going to come up with something off the top of my head. Maybe something that I've been doing that's kind of practically been helping me.
Yeah, that's good.
So something that I've been doing, with all the time we have in our hands, I've been just encouraging myself with scripture, with Bible verses. And again, I know some of you guys don't read the Bible, so maybe that looks like positive quotes for you. But honestly, for me, the Bible is sustainable, and I know it's true, and I know I've seen God just come through, like I said, was explaining in my story before. And so I like scriptures, like, and I'll put the actual verses somewhere here, because I don't know the exact verses to some of these, but so there's like, my God will provide my every need according to his righteousness in Christ Jesus. There's also, all things will work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. There is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Like, all of those really help me, just remembering those promises, and they are promises, so we know that, you know, God will keep his word on those. So just kind of think about scriptures like that, and speak those over yourself. Tell yourself that when you're feeling anxious, and again, surround yourself around positive people. Limit your social media usage. Some of those memes, like, they're funny, but they're also like scary,
depressing.
So limit your usage on that. And the news, oh my gosh, the more I read the news, I'm like, oh gosh, 15 more days of quarantine, get me out of here. So just speak positivity and limit negativity.
What those are so good. Thanks. How can I compete with that?
Come on, give me something
because that's
new.
what I do.
You do the same.
I literally would keep a journal with me of scriptures that I wrote down and like God's promises. And like I would.
When was this when the situation with your dad happened, or now?
This is now.
Okay.
Yeah. So now when anything's going on, like as I've grown in my relationship with God, like I know like I need to be reading these things. I would like take it to work with me. I would take it wherever, and anytime I felt anxious or stressed or whatever it may be, I would just read those. So I think that is a really good point. That's a huge number one.
Yeah.
I would say get around people who are going to be able to speak positively into your life, who can pull you out of that pit, and take action steps to get where you want to be, whether that's writing things out, start thinking and planning and praying about where you want to be, what you want the change to be, what's going to happen after this season or time, whatever the unexpected situation is. So that way you start to take steps towards that in whatever way that might be. And just, you know, get outside, go for a walk.
Oh my gosh, get out the house.
Yeah, go for a walk. Just something you can exercise, sweat. Your diet is very important, which Jasmine's so good about clean eating.
Honestly, though, I'm running out of food.
No sugar. You're running out of food. I'm running out of toilet paper. I might take some toilet paper when I eat. Jasmine. But yeah, because the spiritual, the emotional, the physical, it's all tied together. So really just trying to eat clean, eat healthy, get outside, go for a walk, exercise, sweat, get your endorphins flowing, get some sunlight, you know, if possible, and have conversations and talk to people who you know bring that good energy, good positivity, tell you the truth, love you, because that's so important. Even if it's just, you know, a FaceTime call or a texting or a phone call, talking and just having that connection with someone who cares about you is really, really, really important and really helpful.
Yeah, that's such great advice.
Yeah, those are my tips.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you guys watched this episode. We try to keep it short to let you go on quarantine, but also wanted to give you some content so you can watch and stay encouraged. And yeah, I love the advice that you gave, and I feel like it's time for another vision board party, even though we did one like 3 months ago.
That's a good idea. Because everything's changed.
We need to like reset and do a new vision.
Yes, that's a good idea.
I feel like we need a do-over. Like April should be January, and we start the year over.
Yes,
and we just need to be hopeful and like do that again, right?
I agree. Yes, because everything's changed.
Yeah, maybe you can use this like downtime to do a vision board and to let yourself dream again.
Yes,
because this is not final, and we need to stay encouraged, stay with those fresh ideas, and you know. I was telling Alexandria before we got on this video that it feels like the end of the world, but but it's not.
It's not the end.
So there's still time to like regroup and restart, and I just wanted you guys to be encouraged not to quit, not to stop, but keep pushing forward and keep looking to the future, because this will end, and this is, very temporary. Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Please leave a comment. Tell us what you're doing during your quarantine, how you're staying encouraged, and how others can be encouraged as well. We thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.